Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Delusions of Grandeur. I am one of your hosts, but today we are going to go on about an anthology that was put out by Joe Sherlock called Truly Dreadful Tales. And it was put out under his F&C Productions the studio, which was what it was before he created Skullface Astronaut. Do you know what F&C stands for, my friend Boris?
Yes, it stands for Fast and Cheap. Fast and Cheap Productions. I'm not sure if I read that on some older DVDs, or maybe Joe himself told me. I'm not sure, but yeah, I have my own copy of Truly Dreadful Tales.
So, the thing about this anthology is that it's not. Oh, let me take off my coronavirus mask. It's scary out there.
Oh, I can imagine.
But in any case, these short films are not directed by Joe Sherlock indirectly. In fact, they're not directed by him at all. What they do have is, I think 3 of them are written, shot, and scored by him, and then one of them just so happens to have been a short film that I think that he agreed to put on this anthology. So, because there is one in here that doesn't have him doing anything on it at all. I think. Let me see. Okay. Let's see. Okay, that's Death Nurse. Okay. Beetle Maniac. Beetle Maniac is the one that doesn't have. I don't think it has him doing anything at all on it. Maybe. Let's see. Let me look.
Maybe he wrote it. I'm not sure.
No, yeah, he wrote it and he scored it. Okay, so he didn't edit it. He didn't edit it. That's why. That's what was different.
Makes sense.
Okay, so let's start with the first short film on here. It is called Death Nurse. It stars Laura G as Donna Devlin, Johnny Monotone as Walter Howard, and Mike Potter as Link Masters. What do you think about this first short film? And was this a first time watch for you? Checking out Truly Dreadful Tales.
Well, no, it was not the first time. The first time was actually, if I remember correctly, in 2014, since I have been a Joe Sherlock fan for quite some time now. But yeah, I saw it back then, and then I haven't seen it again until Monday, and now I saw it with you for the third time. So. Yeah, so regarding Death Nurse, the first short, and yeah, the main character from that short is also on the cover. She is very beautiful, as you can see. It was yeah, it was a pretty good story with one of usual Joe Sherlock twists near the end. and it has some very sexy scenes. I liked Laura's performance and her outfits as well. She was pretty good.
Definitely. The the short film for me, it was a good representation of what you would call cursed greed to me. Cursed because the story involves a millionaire called Link Masters,
I'm
and
sorry, I think Link Masters was the TV reporter.
oh, okay, yeah, the uh, who was the millionaire again?
I think they said his name was Mr. Wolfman,
Okay,
if
yeah,
I remember
Mr. Wolfman.
correctly.
Mr. Wolfman was a millionaire that evidently Laura G's character, Donna Devlin, had been taken care of. And he died, and the fingers were pointed at Donna for the murder, and her friend Walter was also a suspect as well. The thing is, we don't get that until like three-quarters of the way into the short film. But um, the point of this film, I think, is more or less don't steal from someone and kill them.
Well,
uh,
yeah, definitely.
uh,
Although there is, oh, I'm sorry I interrupted you.
and we are introduced to what happens to this to these people by the story of a news report. What did you think about that news report?
Oh well, one interesting thing about him is that he has appeared in many Joe Sherlock movies. I think he even appears in his most recent ones. It's always Link Masters reporting what happens in the story. Well,
Do
he
you happen to remember how many times Link Masters shows up in some of the other
uh,
films?
I don't know exactly, but I think he appeared in Blood Creek Woodsman in the new version of One Noggins. Not sure about the old one. I think he was also in Strange Monsters, if I remember correctly.
Okay, that would be
Uh,
Phase Five.
yeah, yeah. And well, I'm not sure exactly, but yeah, he has been in quite several movies, which kind of makes us wonder how much of all this stuff in Joe Sherlock movies takes place in the same universe.
I think it kind of does in the universe that he has created. But in any case, um, Laura G is an interesting character because she seems to be um, much looking forward to getting some money involved in this death of this millionaire, and she seems to put her trust in the wrong person or persons. What do you
Uh,
think?
Oh, well, definitely. Like, after the first news report, we see her watch it and comment on it, and then we kind of figure out that she actually did it and that she has zero remorse over what she did. But then, yeah, it eventually turns out, well, spoiler alert, that Walter, her boyfriend, apparently her accomplice in this whole thing, that he is an even worse person than her because when she did what she did, she intended to share this stolen fortune with Walter while he killed her to stay with all of it. So that kind of makes him even worse than her.
For sure. And it's an interesting way of doing a creature feature as well, because it's a shot on film, which you can tell it was uh, put on VHS at one point in time. But there is a man who is masked that appears to be haunting at least her. And then she, in turn, because she was offed, she began to haunt Walter. And that's why I say that there is an interesting aspect of greed while being haunted. So
that was what I wanted to mention earlier. At first, when this haunting character appears, we don't know who it is. We think it might actually be the ghost of Mr. Wolfman, but yeah, then it turns out that it was Walter, that he just pretended to be a ghost, and he intended to kill Donna and stay with the fortune, and that's what he did in the end. And when that happens, it makes you think there was nothing supernatural in this story after all. But then actually we get a real ghost when Donna comes back to kill Walter.
now, what do you think about the facial makeup on Donna during this period? And just before you answer, evidently, "We Need Earth Women" was the first appearance of Link Masters.
Oh, wow!
Joe,
Well, that's
Joe Sherlock just messaged us not too long ago. So,
oh, I don't see it here. No, it's appeared on screen to me. Winnie Dirt Women was first appearance of Link Masters. Cool.
so
I'm glad you're watching us, Joe.
hopefully you enjoy the rest of the discussion.
Yeah, I hope so.
It appears that most of this film was filmed inside of an apartment of some sort. Other than that, I think the only outside appearance of anything in this short film was just news reportings that Link Masters was reporting, and I thought that it was interesting that most of the background story, the Mr. Wolfson.
I think they said Wolfman.
Wolfmen. And I think it's interesting that the backstory was relayed by the newspaper, the news reporter.
Yes.
So, what did you think about the short film at the end of watching it the first time?
Well, actually, one interesting thing, which I think I didn't notice the first time, because I paid attention to it only the second time when Link Masters mentioned something about bizarre case. I can't repeat it word by word what he said, but he mentioned that it hasn't happened since Blood Creek Woodsman, which is an interesting detail I paid attention to now, because Blood Creek Woodsman is another Joe Sherlock movie that was actually released quite some time after Truly Dreadful Tales, because I remember the first time I watched it, the first time I watched Truly Dreadful Tales, Blood Creek Woodsman was not released yet. So that was an interesting detail I noticed.
Oh
But
yeah.
Yeah, I asked Joe about it. If I remember correctly now, he said that by the time when the Truly Dreadful Tales was made, that Blood Creek Woodsman was already written, but it wasn't finished. Joe, please feel free to correct me if I'm saying something wrong. No. uh,
Um, apparently, Death Nurse, the short film, was shot in a house that Donna was house sitting at the time, and then he mailed them the rubber mask to use. And
oh,
then he shot the Link Masters footage himself. Now, I do want to relay that the film was directed and shot by Laura G. and Johnny Monotone, who pl- uh,
oh,
uh, who who played Walter.
yeah, actually, Laura makes her own movies. I have two of her movies in my collection. They're just not here at hand right now. I should have brought them out, but yeah, I have her movies, Demon of Temptation and Cold as Soul.
But now that I know the information that Joe gave us, he shot some of it. So I guess he directed the Link Masters section of this short film. So in a sense, but in any case, moving on to Beetle Maniac, which that particular short film was um, that was written and scored by Joe Sherlock, and then it was edited by Isabella Stephen, but it was directed by Luke Bernier and Isabella Stephen. It stars Isabella Stephen as Helen, Luke Bernier as Andre, and Carrie Taylor as Emma. What did you think about all three characters? And
Oh,
the first time you said that this film absolutely disgusted you.
yeah, actually, the first time I saw Beetle Maniac was in Beneath a Dead Moon, which is, I saw it at the beginning of 2014, I remember, because Beneath a Dead Moon was a part of the very first package I ever ordered from Joe Sherlock, which was very special to me because. It also contained the Dreamwalkers, which I wanted that movie very much because I needed it to complete my Felicia Pandolfi collection, and the movie had been unreleased before, and actually my begging for it was what kind of got it released, which is why this whole thing is very special to me. Okay, sorry, I'm rambling now. I went
It's
off topic.
okay. We're allowed to ramble.
Yeah, true. So yeah, a part of that package was Beneath a Dead Moon, which, as you can read on Joe's website, contains an expanded version of Beetle Maniac. But yeah, to me personally, the first time I saw Beetle Maniac, it was the first time that anything in a Joe Sherlock movie actually managed to cause a feeling of disgust, and so far it hasn't happened again. It was so far that has been the first and only time that something in his movies kind of disgusted me, and actually, I have to say I'm a bit biased there because I really dislike insects in real life. So that's why this short movie disgusted me the first time I saw it. The whole
But
idea of,
but did
yes,
you end up watching it from start to finish? See, to me, it doesn't matter whether you like or dislike a film. What matters is that number one, you don't fall asleep during the film, and number two, you actually finish the film. So,
oh, of course.
did you fall asleep and did you finish the film?
No, I definitely didn't fall asleep, and I did finish it, of course. Well, please don't get me wrong, whoever is watching this, just because I'm saying the short disgusted me, it definitely doesn't mean it's bad. I mean, the point of that scene was to disgust the audience, so it did a good job at that. And
For sure. I mean, myself, this is like if you took out the bugginess, um, per se, if you took out the buddiness, this is like every epitome of like a really bad date. I mean,
yeah, definitely.
she is obviously in a hurry to get back to her apartment. She is evidently in a hurry to get showered and dressed. And oh, lo and behold, her blind date shows up evidently early, which is a good thing on a guy's aspect, but it's a bad thing with a female, you know? I mean, she is definitely to the viewer, at least to me, um, not very well organized of a person.
Yeah, that's true, maybe, but the
And
fact that
she should have at least had a fully uh, developed and planned out dinner instead of a okay, I've got some noodles here and now I don't know what to put on top of it, you know, and it ended up being something in between like a powdered version of a ramen noodle.
uh, yeah, I don't know exactly what it was, but
Well, and I guess Andre's job um, wasn't exactly a job that maybe he might have wanted to talk about.
yeah.
But she was complaining to her friend later, Emma, that that he was telling her this story about this giant beetle or bug, and when it was her who asked about his job to begin with. So, what do you think about that aspect of the film?
Well, if it wasn't for the fact that Andre is some human insect hybrid in the first place, which is what will bring us later to this scene that disgusted me the first time. Yeah, actually, as far as that scene goes, when he tells her that story, he kind of can't be blamed much. Later in the phone call, she says to her friend that he was so weird that he told her this horrible story. But hey, you asked him about his job. He just told her the truth. So he can't be blamed much as far as that goes.
Now, what is different about this cut and the cut on Beneath a Dead Moon?
Uh, yeah, that's an interesting part. The Beneath a Dead Moon version contains a scene that's kind of what we call breaking the fourth wall. When Helen is in the shower, there is another woman who joins her, and they get naked and start making out in the shower. And then all of a sudden, we see Joe Sherlock and John Bowker apparently watching that happen. And I think Joe says, "Hey, this isn't in the script," so it kind of makes it look like the characters are aware of just being in a movie. And so Joe says, "This is not in the script," and John Bowker says, "Shut up!" And he's staring at those two women, and he says, "I love my job." Yeah, that was to me that was one pretty memorable scene in Joe Sherlock movies. Yeah, it was really funny.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you have not watched our or seen our conversation on where we actually compared Werewolf Tales to Beneath the Dead Moon, go ahead and check that out and use that as a guideline at this point if you feel the need. For we had actually watched Werewolf Tales and Beneath a Dead Moon back to back
Yeah,
and compared the two. And I thought it was an interesting comparison. So go ahead and check that out at this moment. But we're going to continue with the Beetle Maniac um, uh, part of this discussion. So ultimately, the character that Luke um, had been portraying, which is Andre, evidently he was it turned into some kind of a creature that had
yeah,
like multiple eyes. What do you think about that?
yeah. That's kind of like Franz Kafka's Metamorphosis, but this is even nastier. Yeah, so like I said, the first time I saw it, I found that kind of scary. But like I said, that was just the way I personally perceived it because I really dislike insects in real life. No offense to anyone who likes them, but I personally don't. So yeah, I found that scene pretty terrifying. Later, I didn't find it so terrifying anymore after I discussed it with Joe and he told me all the details about how that Beetle Maniac mask was made. I think if I remember correctly, that he used some eggshells and ping pong balls. If I remember correctly, I'm sorry if I'm wrong, but yeah. When I heard those details, it didn't seem so scary anymore. But yeah, the first time it was really nasty to me, and I was like, good job for the first time. You actually managed to disturb me with your horror movies. Before, yeah,
which means
before,
which means it did its job. To me,
yeah, exactly.
the projectile that came out of the bug's mouth while he was mauling our young Helen. She it definitely looked that which was dripping down her body. That looked like oatmeal there. So
Oh, possibly. I don't know what it was, but it's not even just the visual effect, but the idea of it. Like, no matter what it's made of, when you imagine that it's some nasty, destructive liquid that came out of some human insect hybrid, and that's what I found terrifying about it.
So apparently, Isabel shot that breaking the fourth wall shower scene in Beneath the Dead Moon on her own. Evidently, she said that she'd done some improvement on the set, and Joe wanted to use it. So he also thought it was funny and sexy and cool.
It
Uh,
was
so
definitely.
so he shot that other bit with himself and John and Dale in his garage, and he edited it into the short film, as it were. And apparently, the Beetle Maniac mask was plastic Easter eggs for the eyes, and then uh, rubber snakes hanging down on either side of the mouth, made by paper machete and a black wig.
Has Joe said that in the comments now or something?
Yep.
Oh, now it's appeared to me here on StreamYard. Oh, yeah, yeah. I'm sorry I didn't remember it fully correctly. My apologies, Joe.
That's okay. Impressions that you remember are good to have too. I mean, not everything that you watch or see or anything like that that not always will you remember every single detail, or even, I mean, I even have to go back to movies and be like, oh yeah. And some movies are like going backwards and seeing something different in them, and you're like, wait a minute, I didn't see that before. That's
Oh
so
yeah. I tend to notice some things like that. Well, by now it's some really small details in John Bowker's The Seekers, which you know already is my favorite independent horror movie of all time. But yeah, after seeing it more than 10 times or so, I ended up noticing that, like in one scene, and one character puts a videotape in his VCR. The VCR is on top of his TV, and then when he sits down and the video begins, you see the TV screen, but there is the VCR no longer appears on top of it. Some small things like that I noticed after watching the movie for 10 times or even more.
well, and I thought it was a pretty decent representation. I mean, I thought it was some decent special effects with the creature. I mean, you obviously know that it's a mask on top that a man is wearing, and but in order to make it more deadly looking on screen, you have to have some kind of um, you know uh, way to present that, and I thought it was presented pretty decently, uh,
Yeah, yeah.
gore, gorily enough.
Once again, I would just like to point out that only because I said that this short disgusted me the first time, I don't mean anything bad by that. Like I said, the point of that scene was to be disgusting. So Joe definitely did, or those Isabel Steven and Luke Bernier definitely did a good job with that scene. So.
Oh yeah. And then at the end of the film, and if we did not say that we're probably going to spoil the shit out of this film.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
I'm sure people know by now that we're going to spoil. So just watch the film first if you have a copy of the film, and then just kind of use this as a guideline as well.
Yeah.
So ultimately, we realize that he is more or less a predator by the end of the film. How do
Yeah.
you think that it ended? Do you think that it ended pretty good with that phone call to Emma, and she was like, "Well, I do know this tall blonde with big breasts," and
Yeah.
he's kind of like, hmm.
Tasty. Yeah, well, that ending is, I would say it's a bit ambiguous and up to interpretation because we actually don't know Emma's intentions in all this. We don't know if she knows what Andre really is and what he does. I mean, when she talked to Helen before, she seemed like they were friends and so on. And like, we don't know if she knows that Andre actually kills every woman he dates, but if it has happened multiple times, she should start wondering what's going on unless she actually works with him in all that.
Right? I
Yeah.
mean, it would be bad on her part if she would allow that kind of thing to go on. She comes off as someone who just wants to match him up with the best person, and she knew the one girl, uh, and she just might be in the not knowing of the things that he is doing. So,
Yeah, which makes me wonder
or
how
eating.
many women. I'm sorry, what did
I
you
said,
say?
or eating.
Yeah, like it left me wondering how many women does he have to kill until Emma finally starts suspecting something, unless she actually knows and is helping him.
Well, regardless, let us go to the next film. And you can actually watch these films in any order, technically, but they do go in some sort of semblance of order. The next one should have actually been Tree Spirit,
Yeah,
but
but
this is just how I had it written in my notes. um, the next one was actually Tree Spirit. Then it was Beetle Maniac, and then it was Craving,
crazed.
Crazed. So Tree Spirit is directed by Tom Schafer, um, and it stars Pam Moorhead as Jenny, Tom Schafer as Brad, Sarah Ippoliti as Rachel, Tim Worrell as the boss, Rob Miracle as Jack, and I believe that this is ja, Jock Wilmot
Oh,
as the tree.
John Wilmot.
John Wilmot as the tree spirit. So, what did you think about this short film the first time you saw it?
Oh, well, it was pretty good. I actually have to admit I kind of have a thing for these stories where justice is delivered in a brutal and lawless way, whether it's by earthly means or supernatural means. But when you see someone get exactly what they deserve, even if it's not what human laws would approve of. It's kind of delightful to see, and we have to be honest, all these characters in this short got what they deserved.
Well, apparently we have a couple of different plot lines here in this particular short film. We have Jenny, who um, is in a relationship that is kind of abusive and uh, in a way um, her I believe it's Brad
Yes, yes.
is the character that plays the significant other in the relationship, and he is um, he looks like he doesn't have a job or anything. He's he's a beer drinking alcoholic, and he just seems to demand attention, and she doesn't seem to give it to him. And his best friend is in the same mindset that he is, because they're bros. And she, to her worker friend at work, which I believe is Rachel, um, relays that he is that violent, and that things aren't cool or anything like that. And she says to him that or to her, why don't you just leave the relationship? And she's like, well, I would, but I don't really have anywhere else to turn to, any person to turn to. I mean, one part of her family is in Wisconsin somewhere, and the other part is she doesn't want anything to do with her after the last times she tried to leave the relationship, you know. And
Yeah.
so what do you think about this relationship aspect of the film?
Well, characters like Brad, I usually hate them, and when they get what they deserve, I'm usually happy. But in this particular case, I couldn't really bring myself to hate this character because he was played by Tom Schafer, who passed away somewhat recently, and he was rather young for that. So whenever I see him nowadays, it's kind of bittersweet. And no matter what kind of character he played, I can't bring myself to hate that character.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, but as far as the story itself goes, yeah, when Brad originally appears for the first 2 minutes or so, he doesn't really seem so bad, but then we see him getting worse and worse until you start worrying for the main character's safety.
Yeah, I can't really bring myself to hate him either. He's kind of earned his respect in the independent film community as far as being involved with Joe Sherlock's films and whatnot. I've seen his name on quite a few of his films, and he was kind of one of the character actors that kind of helped um, um, out with things, and it seemed like anyone that Joe Sherlock's has worked with in the past, it was kind of like a buddy system kind of a thing. So they kind of relied on each other for different things. I mean, even Mr. Miracle, there wasn't quite a few of Joe Sherlock
Oh
films and
yes,
whatnot. So I feel like uh, if one person directed a film, they helped scratch his back and do a few favors. And uh, Tom Schafer was just one of these characters that was probably very reliable. Um, was okay on screen and just had fun doing it while he was doing it. And I just want to say rest in peace for Mr. Schaefer and give the respect where it's due. So,
yeah.
but
Rest in peace.
ultimately, his character is rather hateable in retrospect, though, because he is just very domineering and demanding. And the other plot that is going on in the background is the job aspect of Jenny's with Rachel, where they seem to have a very demanding of time with the boss because he comes out like and makes sure that their break is over when it's over instead of letting them come back on duty and on time when it seems like there's no real business going on really, so to speak, you know.
Yeah. Well, the
what
boss.
what do you what do you think about the the job that she appears to be part of, the boss there?
Well, from what I remember, we didn't actually see much of the job itself, but the boss, yeah, he is a stereotypical example of an abusive boss, and yeah, he pretty much got what he deserved there. But now that you mentioned him, there is one thing that kind of left me confused about this short. The whole thing about these pink or purple flowers that
Well, from what I understand, there was a pink or purple flower that Jenny had actually passed by after trying to come home from work. one afternoon, and she thought they were pretty. And then when she ended up leaving Brad, she went to the woods and fell asleep and woke up to that tree spirit creature. And he gave her those flowers that she had thought were pretty. So, and
Yeah.
then she ultimately tried to give her boss that flower because it was pretty and maybe it would lighten his day. And he just threw it on the ground and stomped on it. What did you think about those moments with the tree spirit and the way the boss treated the flower?
Well, actually, that's what I wanted to say. That the part that confused me was the boss was killed right after he smashed that flower, which at first made me think that maybe the flower would be some kind of test created by the tree spirit, like if you destroy the flower, it proves that you're a terrible person, and then the tree spirit kills you. But
No, it was a flower that was given to Jenny, and he pretty much ruined it. So, as a discombobulated, a disgruntled lover would do, he wanted to hurt him for doing that. So, of course, something happened to him. I mean, that was a flower that, and being that he was a tree spirit, he might have that could have been like a friend of his. You know,
yeah, but
being that it was a plant.
yeah, but then later on, Brad and Jack they also got killed, and they didn't smash any flowers. So that's why I got a bit confused about it. I mean, I was confused about the meaning of the flower because apparently the boss got killed after destroying the flower, but then the flower didn't play any part in the death of the other two antagonists.
No, and she evidently went over to what was his name? That was Jack, right?
Jack,
That
yes.
that that she went over to his house, and he wanted to make her stay there so that um, Brad could come back and take her back to back home. But she didn't want that, so she ended up after work one night calling Brad and saying, "Hey, something fell on me at work that Rachel dropped. Come pick me up." And he came with his buddy Jack, and they ended up going to the woods, and basically the tree spirit kind of is trying to make right her life because evidently it has fallen in love with her,
Mm.
and her with it, and uh, in a way to you know it's kind of a revenge short film because someone always needs a white knight, and she doesn't consider that the tree spirit is a monster. In fact, it's kind of a savior for her. So
Mm.
he, uh, its ugliness or it's to us is not what she thinks of it.
Mm.
I mean, her life has been so bad that you know when this creature ends up killing the people who have wronged her, she's thankful for it. So
Well, yeah, that actually makes sense, and in some dark way, it kind of sends a positive message like don't judge the book by the cover. What matters is not what we look like, but what we are like as people.
Oh yeah. And when he goes and kills the boss, um, the only thing I would have said to have done differently is maybe to have had the creature fully dressed like he was later, because you could actually see some of the skin of the forearm of the person who was wearing the suit.
Oh,
just just very minimally in the corner, but you could see it.
oh,
If he had been fully suited like we saw earlier, you might not have seen that skin. You would have had uh, more of a thought process that this was in fact a creature, and but I, I like the fact that some of the amputations were in fact plastic. I mean, I give a good laugh. I mean, when you see that an arm has been flung to the ground, and you see some blood. Uh, Although at the moment when I saw that the first time, um, I would have expected some blood splatter or whatnot, but I can overlook that all of this. It's just a minor, minimal thing that I would have changed later. But you know what? It is what it is, and
mm,
it was an enjoyable splatter short film.
yeah, I definitely agree. And I mean, it's also an older movie, so by now, Joe Sherlock certainly has a lot more experience as a filmmaker. So even if there were some flaws in some older ones, he has definitely improved by now. So,
Oh yeah, and then of course the last film um, is called Crazed. And for Ruffle, and it is directed by Tim Schrum, um, or Shrum, and it stars. Let's see, it stars Julia as uh, Judy, Victoria L- Lane as Deirdre, Kendra Shroom as Becca, and Hazmat Soldier number two. Carrie Bays as Peggy. Joshua Thomas as the Hazmat Soldier number one. Um, and the makeup artist as is Kendra Shrum. The guy who provided the props is the director. And Joe Sherlock is the one who wrote, edited, and scored the music for this particular short film as well. So, um, in fact, Tim Schrum, I believe, actually had a blog at one point in time. Um,
oh, I didn't know that.
he was the one that you showed me the link
Oh,
to.
oh, that was it. Oh my.
Yeah,
Well, so I
I read
just
I read that he when he mentioned that the film was coming out, um, that he directed it as well. The blogger, and the blogger was called Schlock something.
uh,
Uh,
something like that. Yeah, I stumbled upon that blog when I tried to find what year Truly Dreadful Tales was released, and I didn't even look whose blog it was.
Kid Schlocko at blogspot.com.
Ah,
That
yeah.
was evidently Tim Schrum's blog at the time, and he he put a link up for people to see where the film could be bought at and stuff like that. So that was kind of cool. So we have our main character, who is Judy, I believe, who is evidently um, we see her in the bathroom, and then and for roughly about 6 minutes, we it's kind of a slow beginning because there's a lot of time spent on her looking at her in the bathroom, and then she pukes like 6 minutes later. Uh, and because she's looking at
Yeah,
herself in the bathroom, and I don't think all that time should have been spent in the bathroom. I think like maybe 2 minutes spent looking at her, and then she pukes is all that should have been then needed. But we have like a 6 minute bathroom break in the very beginning of this film, uh, and then we um, have her friend Deirdre show up, and evidently she's reading a magazine, and she basically starts to tell her about her night before. Do you remember any of it? There was a guy that was all over you, and stuff like that. And she's like, no, I don't remember this. Uh, and what do you think about that beginning conversation there on the couch?
huh, well, I can't remember what I thought the first time I saw it because it was a while ago, and the second time I kind of knew what it would lead to. I mean, the whole thing about the virus, which we will get into later. Apparently, that mysterious guy was the one who infected her with the virus, but one thing that's puzzling me about that is that Deirdre mentioned something about the guy suddenly disappearing, and then there was no further word about him. We didn't find out how or why he disappeared.
Yeah. So apparently this guy was all over her at the party, and he might have actually had something to do with um, the virus that she contracted, and it was definitely a mystery involved in that aspect of it. But because she didn't remember all of this, and the fact that she woke up on the floor, um, and stuff like that, she ended up getting into a fight with Deirdre, uh,
Yeah,
and ended up really strangling the crap out of her.
yeah.
So,
Uh,
what do you think about that particular killing from her?
Well, it was pretty well done, although there was one thing I noticed. I'm not sure if it was Deirdre or the other character who got killed, but when there is one moment when Judy is pulling the corpse and you can see the supposedly dead person bending her knee. So that was
Oh,
one
that was
feeling.
that was the second character, the neighbor that was in the garden next door.
Oh,
And
yeah,
I believe that was Becca.
I
Um,
think so.
Becca was apparently the neighbor next door. Um, and she came over to see if everything was all right. She had heard a woman scream. One thing I do want to say is that even though Victoria Lane is an older woman, I do think that she had a very well endowed upper upper level of her body.
Oh,
Um,
definitely.
I was definitely appreciative of that. To me, I like the fact that Joe Sherlock's films. Well, actually, this isn't a Joe Sherlock film per se. I like the fact that the films that seem to be involved with Joe Sherlock's troupe of filmmakers, that they don't necessarily care about the trope that Hollywood seems to follow, where they specifically have this skinny mini concept of actors going on,
Yeah.
where there can't be fat people or anything like that. And I'm not saying that that people are fat or thick or anything like that. I've said this before. He will use any manner of, or they will use any manner of size, height, thickness to an actor or an actress. And I like that they aren't picky, you know?
Yeah, definitely. In some older Joe Sherlock movies, these plus-sized women were appearing every now and then, but they weren't as prominent as they became later. Nowadays, they are like one of the main, to say so, ingredients of Joe Sherlock's movies. Like nowadays, Skullface Astronaut wouldn't be what it is without them.
For sure. And let's see. Ultimately, we learn that there is a virus that appears to be going around that apparently causes something in the brain where they just end up going crazy and start emitting some kind of a rage and going on a killing spree. And that's when we get two hazmat suited characters after after she's dragged the one lady over. And um, I like this part a little bit because you see some veins that are on the skin of Judy.
Yeah,
And it seems like they keep getting longer and whiter on her skin, and those hazmat suits just don't care. They're just going to drag her ass out. uh, so, what do you think about the film as a whole? Do you think that it was pretty decent?
yes, it was pretty decent, and it's especially interesting to see these days when everyone is talking about a virus, about COVID-19. So this movie can kind of make people think, well, there might be some more threatening viruses out there than COVID-19.
Well, it is
Who
definitely
knows?
more prevalent in this day and age, for sure.
Yeah,
it is it's definitely mindful of the present period because of COVID-19 and stuff. Because
yeah, well,
it is a virus that is attacking people, a different form of the flu. And to be honest, did you know that pig flu and bird flu and whatnot are actually strains of different strains of COVID?
I didn't know about bird flu and swine flu. Well, I did know about that, but if they are related to COVID-19, I didn't know that. But I did hear about SARS being another. Uh, I don't know how it's said in English, but another type of coronavirus. And yeah, well, about what I said about threatening viruses, don't get me wrong. The situation with COVID really is bad nowadays. Just yeah, some people get really extremely anxious about that. So that's why I jokingly said that. this movie can make them think there are possibly some even more threatening viruses than this one. But yeah, whoever is watching this, be careful, stay away from crowds, and wear masks and do everything you can to prevent the spreading of the virus.
Yep. And those who know me, my mom has actually made several hundred of these to different people.
Oh,
So
wow, cool.
this one's got turtles.
Nice. I know you like
So
turtles.
I am prepared for any kind of virus, including the zombie kind. And this one was on the level of a zombie like uh, virus per se. It's just that she wasn't eating brains or anything like that.
Yeah,
She was
but
more just killing people in a rage.
yeah, well, actually, that's a pretty interesting twist. Like when she, in the first scene, when she gets violent and kills one character, you think she's some psycho killer or something. But then when you find out about the virus, you realize it kind of wasn't even her fault in the first place.
No, it was started evidently as some kind of a phenomenon because of the radio report that we heard while right before the hazmat suited characters came to take her away, and I like that fact that it was kind of like uh, it was like an invasion of a source of this virus, or that it wasn't just happening there.
Yeah, and one interesting thing about this short that I wanted to point out is that it was remade for a newer anthology by Joe Sherlock called Beyond the Wall of Fear. Have we already discussed that one? I kind of can't remember.
We have not yet. Maybe well, we still have a lot of the earlier films to watch before we get to that one, and then eventually we'll get into the Things series. Eventually, I wouldn't mind going on with you about those,
Oh, that would be
especially
cool.
especially since David Sterling has started pre-orders on his box set of the Things series out there. It'll go along with my occultist set, my X Grinder set, and my Camp Blood set. So
Oh, cool.
he's got during this pandemic age, David Sterling. He is got a lot of box set type things planned where they've got here. I'll show you this. This is the occultist set, and
Oh,
he's got
cool.
some artwork on it. He puts it on cardboard and whatnot, but it's really cool. Um, and you open it up here, and it's got a ton of room for more movies, so that when he creates more to the franchise, he can just add on to it.
Well, that's pretty creative. I haven't seen that done before.
Yeah, it's kind of neat and unique. I think I got that for $50 from him the last time, and I know I would love to see what more that he can put in. Love to see what he can do with the witchcraft series that he was part of. If he is able to actually get the first 10 or the first 9 or 10 that he was not a producer on to be part of that series, because the fourth one, if I remember correctly, the Virgin Heart was a trauma film that was picked up, and uh, will be interesting when he comes out with those other series.
Oh, well, yeah, that would be interesting to check out.
Oh yeah. I'm not. I'm not sure if we'll be able to cover them per se because of the last time we tried to watch them watch a couple of Blu-rays, but because they're independent, you may we may or may not be able to watch. I do have The Occultist somewhere, so we'll have to see. The second one I would definitely love to check out, especially since I'm one of the producers on that, evidently.
Oh, congratulations.
So, in any case, definitely, I think that's all that we have for today, folks. But definitely like, share, and subscribe. Um, um, Thank you for listening to our discussion on this particular anthology. I know it is out of print from Joe,
Uh,
but it was definitely entertaining and worth seeing for different cuts of different films because
yeah, definitely.
Joe Sherlock is kind of known for taking some of his earlier shorts, adding stuff to it, and placing it in later anthologies. So it's definitely.
Well, there is actually one interesting thing I would like to add about this anthology. From what I remember, if I remember correctly, there was once Joe once had an idea to expand the Truly Dreadful Tales series with some more shorts, and he, from what I remember, wrote some scripts and sent them to people. One of them was My Boris short, which is nowadays in Dark Zone 13. The first version of Boris we made is actually called Truly Dreadful Tales Boris. I made that one, and it eventually became a bonus short in Beyond the Wall of Fear. Now, from what I remember, the other shorts that he wrote when he intended to continue the Truly Dreadful Tales series, they weren't exactly made then, but for example, I remember one was The Doll, which was eventually shot by Joseph Wogely, and it also became a part of Dark Zone 13. Then there was one that was supposed to be shot by Joel D. Wynkoop. I don't remember what exactly happened with that one, but it was called The Diary of Blood, and it didn't become a part of Truly Dreadful Tales, but it became a part of Joel's anthology called The Wynkoop Tales. By the way,
Okay.
I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I apologize if I didn't.
No.
And
In fact, I've had thoughts about having Joel Winecoop actually. Um,
Wynkoop, yeah.
yep. I've had thoughts about having him interviewed on my show. So,
Oh,
um,
that would be pretty cool.
oh yeah. I know I asked him back at the beginning of the year, but then the whole pandemic happened and my health happened and all that jazz. So
Oh,
I do still plan on um, uh, having him on the show. I just uh, haven't gotten around to asking him on.
yeah.
But in any case, just enjoy the film, ladies and gentlemen, and hopefully you didn't mind our ramblings from time to
Yeah,
time on
I hope so.
the film. So thank you, and just enjoy and check the film out. Like, share, and subscribe. And good morrow, good evening, and good day.
Yeah, thank you all.